So welcome to networking for everyone, including introverts. Um, Networking always is an interesting topic, and people find it that as they go through and look at different things, they really either love it or hate it. And the big thing is you have to either ignore it or acknowledge it. But it's something that everyone needs to do to be successful. And so what I'd like to do is share some things that I've learned to help those that may find this a daunting process. If we really look at networking, it's really about creating mutually supporting relationships. Remember, you're building relationships. It's a lifelong process. It's going to have ebbs and flows as you move in and out of contact with people. So networking really depends on the person's needs and the wants, along with the people you're networking with. So, the use of networking could be to find a job, could be to see what opportunities are out there. It could be to grow your influence and connect other people. Maybe you're trying to move up in the world and you're trying to connect with certain people within the company. So there's a lot of different ways. Maybe you're just trying to improve your social network. So as you look at it, I've listed a few here, but there are so many out there. You just need to be understanding of what you're looking for and who you're looking for. And the big thing with networking, some of us find it very fun and easy, while others find it very draining. But both groups can benefit by looking at networking through a simple process. And I think that's important because you have to understand the purpose of what you're doing, and it will improve how you do it and how you feel after it. So you're thinking, why network, right? It's going to be critical to your career success, right? It's also very critical to the success that you have in life. Relationships with people are going to be in direct relationship to your career movement. So again, the connections that you have are going to lead to those opportunities that you can move forward with, both in career and in life. So it's very important that you develop that. You never want to live in isolation as it goes through. So your career success depends on networking. If you have any idea about career success for yourself, you must network. You can't get the next promotion, great assignment, new job without your connections. For those with introverted tendencies, many think that hard work and good results is what matters most. It would be great if that were the case, but it's wrong to believe that to be true. Subpar performance on the job is important or superb. But if you don't have a supportive network, you're going to be in for big disappointments. And so I think you need to have that in mind as you go through, is that hard work and great performance are important, but connections are also very important. So let me just give you a little bit of an example. I didn't have the greatest job last year. Wasn't happy. It was it was a good learning experience. And I made a year commitment, so I stuck with it for the year. But it was very draining and not good. What I did is I started to reach out through my network to contact people I knew to let them know that I wasn't happy, I was looking, and to let me know. And I stayed in contact with those people over the course of the year. And then basically what happened is I quit my job at the end of the year, right? The school year, I quit in June with no other job lined up. And I still kept in contact with different network contacts, was building some other pieces. And then, lo and behold, mid-August, something came through. but it was through the connections that I had made that allowed that opportunity to be present and to be focused. And this is very important. 80% of the success is based on our ability to effectively interact and relate to others. Right? The other 20% is skill, knowledge, and technical. I mean, if you think about all the articles you read and you look at everything, you're not worried about the trained skills that you have. You're worried about the soft skills, those connections, the teamwork, the communication, those type of things. They're really looking at and how you can connect with others. They can always teach you the hard stuff. Everyone does better when they have and they know their purpose. The problem is that the typical networking is open-ended and scary for some, right? Like, here, go in a room and go meet people. And that's definitely scary. I mean, I'm an introvert. It's scary. But by taking small steps or actions, you can build confidence. And I think that's what we're going to show you as we go through. The important part is you can't hide behind your phone. You can't hide behind your computer. No matter how long the string is, we all need to use all avenues to reach out and connect with people. And we have to get out there. Face-to-face, meetings, wherever we are, there's an opportunity that you never know where it may lead. And so that's another piece we need to think about. Right, the next great opportunity is around the corner. So think of someone you know. Think of family, friends, neighbors. You never know where it will lead. And I think it's very important because I think you'll be surprised what networking can do and that opportunity. So as you're going through, think about that. And it's important because, I was recently at a friend's house and engaged in a conversation about what I was doing and how I was going to focus on the retirement coaching and helping people with transition. And I was surprised by the person who I knew was an acquaintance, right? A friend, right? Somebody I didn't see all the time, gave me a contact to help me move forward and develop the next step of a referral and a possibility of a contact. So again, you never know, but you have to make sure that you have people connected and informed. Now, the research out there varies. But basically, some of the sources state that, 66% of the hires are done through their networks. 41% basically right around people working in the company, so interacting, talking, LinkedIn connections, people they know. And 25 people are referred to the company. Now, the important part to understand is that people are referred because if you have a very good worker, what are you going to do when you're hiring somebody? Hey, do you know anybody? Because your expectation and knowledge of this person is going to lead that they're going to bring in somebody that's very similar. And so it's kind of that trust and credibility of knowing that next person is going to be very similar to them. So as we kind of look at 4 steps in networking, it's really kind of building relationships, expanding your relationships, connecting in your network, and maintaining your network. We need to follow the steps from the basics of building and expanding relationships to connect and engaging our networks and to maintaining the networks. The funny part is that maintaining is the easiest part for introverts because we're always giving and helping other people. But really that expanding and developing is sometimes the harder part for introverts. So to build relationships, you're trying to find something in common. It's giving information support. And then basically a relationship grows from understanding and share values. But the biggest thing that you have to do is invest time. Anything that you do, it's going to take time. And so you need to build that within your calendar and build it within what you're doing. So as we look at some commonalities, right, there's two ways to look at it as we go through, professionally and personally. So if we look at, kind of the professional side and bring everything together, you work together, you have some business interests, they may be a vendor, they may be a supplier, or there may be just some common agenda or interest that you're doing that really brings them together. So think about that as you go through. On the personal side, it could be that you're involved in some recreation activities together. It could be biking, could be hiking, could be you play pool together, whatever it may be. You may be volunteering, and so you connect through the volunteers. It could be through your spirituality, through your church, whatever you may do that way. And it could come down to sports or exercise, working out. And it just could be some personal connections of things that you know and you do, and you move from there. Now, the important part, though, as you go through in any relationship and network, is an exchange of information, but there's also mutual support as you go through. I think that's an important part as you bring things together. And so when you're doing this, you're really trying to nurture the relationship. So as you bring this together, if you think about friends and family, you went to a great restaurant, you share that information with your friends and family, and they end up going, wow, I gotta check this out. So they'll go. So you're basically giving updates to people as you go through. And then at work, you may share the how-to information, completing tasks. And this helps you with other workers as it goes through. One of the things that I do, and this may be helpful and maybe a little bit scary, but I keep a network list of 90 of my closest friends. To be honest, it's probably up to 180. And basically, I keep track of when I contact them because I just want to make sure I give them updates or share information. And it's helping me in terms of my jobs, what I'm trying to do outside of work. And so keep that. That may be something you might want to consider as you go through. Values and chemistry, right? So as people become more connected with each other, there's more of a bond, there's more of a chemistry. You start to share values, and you learn about character values, which connect you even more, depending if they're reliable, they're happy. And those character values are what leads to likability. And likability is enormous in interviews and networking. So it's kind of a process that you go through and as you get connected. So that's important to remember as you go through and put things together. So no matter what we look and how we kind of put this all together, time is important. No matter what you're doing, relationships with people require time. You need to invest in contact. And that's why I do the Network of 90, just to make sure that I'm staying in touch. Time is a big part of networking. And the development is the most important thing we have. And you need to build it into your calendar. Then you have some steps that you do, I like to say, daily, weekly, and monthly. That makes a huge impact by staying in touch, reaching out. And it could just be a quick update. It's not like you're having this long conversation. But some you can do through email, you can text, whatever it may be. But it's just making sure through LinkedIn ways to make sure you're part of the conversation. So if we look at our network, right, we're going to look at it in 3 tiers. Level 1 of those people you're well connected with, right? Usually the first tier are people that you're well connected with, you communicate frequently. They may be people in your circle, like your boss, your family, your best friend, project partners, peers, whatever it may be. Your second tier, which are people you know and you're friendly with, your second tier is that you know and you're friendly with, but perhaps you have no specific reason to communicate with them regularly, other than with a relationship at work. Your contact may be consistent, but perhaps not regular. And this could be like work peers, and it could be even friends that you don't see all the time, but you get together every once in a great while. And then that third tier really are the acquaintances. These are the people that you know well enough to have some contact, and everyone else you know currently that you're not in the previous tier. So you call them acquaintances. You might have no regular communication contact, but you know well enough to communicate, but maybe a former peer, connection through a committee, and that's an important part. And so, as I look at my network, I have my 90 that I stay in touch with on a regular basis. Some people that I'm friendly with, but I have acquaintances all across the country through working through NCDA. And there are people that I may not see all the time, but I'll see maybe at a conference and connect in. And it's just a great another tier or level of your network. So, relationship building. I kind of mentioned this a little bit before, but what you want to do, especially in your level ones, is stay in touch, right? Email, give them an update. So I send out 1 to 2 emails a day. Just a little quick update, maybe my favorite quote, here's what's happening, hope everything's well in your life, love to hear from you. And then basically you can also think about, as you're walking through your company, having conversations with people you don't know. That's another way to get out there. Reach out to other parts of the company maybe you don't get to, or other parts of the campus or organization. Attend a social event. It could be in your neighborhood, in your town. And as you're there, you share what you're doing. It's a great way to kind of build and connect with people. Expanding. So I think you need to understand your network is in constant change. No matter what you do, there's always ebbs and flows. You need to consistently and constantly add to your network. Over time, you're going to lose contact and people will drop away. But you want to try to keep as much possible. There's a gentleman, Oracle person, who runs a job search company. He said we should have networks of 150 to 200. I keep mine to about 108. And I can do more. But you definitely want a larger network. If your network's 30, I think we need to think about that. You need to expand it, or you need to think how you can expand it. That's going to be an important part as you put things together and what to do. So I think where do you start, right? What are the goals for your network? How many people do you want in? How many people in each tier? The time period for your goals? As we kind of start to put things together, you're going to find, that it's going to work. And you need to think about each tier kind of represents that level of closeness. So in your top one, who do you want there? What do you want in your level 2? And then you think about contact. So let's say you don't have enough people in your network. Keep in mind that, enough may be different than someone else's. So your goal is to double your network to 112 months. Now, you know the number by which you want to increase your network. Doing the math, you're adding to a total network of 4 to 5 people per month. So think about this. Your goal is to increase your total network by 50 in the next year. If you break it down, or 4 to 5 new contacts per month. So that's goal number 1. Goal number 2 is consistently contact. Tier 1, 1-to-1 per month, or as many opportunities arise. Tier 2 could be 2 to 4 times a year. And then that third one could be maybe 3 times a year. Now, the important part is You want to consider setting up your network goals to make it doable. You want to stay the course. And it's also acceptable to modify your goals once you start taking action, as you find you accomplish more than you originally thought. That's why I like using the spreadsheet, because it helps me see what I've done, who are my new contacts, who have I considered, who have I pulled off the list, because I definitely do that, and I put them at the bottom of the list, put them in a different color, just to see what's happened, because it ebbs and flows, and you're never sure of everything as it goes through. So plan of action, right? You want to gauge your project progress, look at how things are going, how are you doing in building relationships. Once an introvert has a purpose, they can do it. And so I think you have your purpose, you're building your network. How are you expanding it? What groups have you got involved? That may be the next piece to think about. So if we think about different types of groups, you have the professional networking, not much support there, but it definitely can build. It's very interesting. I remember going to a group, and I came from the education field. When I went in, we don't talk to Greens because Greens weren't productive for them. They saw it as more education, but not a chance to build their own professional business network. So you have to look at how you go in. Meeting groups or special interests could be art, book, exercise, running, biking. Good place to meet, build, and support as you go forward. If you think about special events not related to work, so maybe a neighbor throwing a party, again, another great place to move forward. Social media, right? So LinkedIn's an awesome place, Google, Twitter, just depending on where you want to be. Now, one thing you want to think about is benchmarking. Benchmarking is an interesting process, and some people do it, some don't. But it's where you spend time with your peers at other companies, analyze the tools, the systems, the things that you're doing in your area, but it helps build your network. I just did one of these. I did benchmarking with another colleague who does my job in a different organization, and we spent an hour and 20 minutes together. It was an awesome experience. Got a chance to see what we're each doing, share some of our insights. But this person became a new contact, and she shared some of her contacts with me. I did the same. It was just a wonderful chance to move forward. So if you think about an exercise, this is what I'd love for you to do. Each month, set aside a time and a date where you spend 20 minutes reviewing your profile and updating it, right? Your LinkedIn profile is only as good as the current knowledge and place where you're at. So make sure it's up to date. Each week, set aside 10 minutes to kind of look out second or third connections that you want to get introduced to. And, you want to add them in, write an email as you go through. Have someone introduce you, send an email directly, whatever it may be. Reach out. And then each month, basically, I want you to type in your company name and target an employee that you don't know well. Or just even, if you have a list of yours, pick somebody and go out and talk to them. That's an important part as you go through. Engaging, right? Engagement is key. We can have all these wonderful systems, we can have all these wonderful ideas, but if you do not take action and engage, it all does not work. So build in time to talk to people. That's important. Elevator speech. Well, the biggest thing about an elevator speech or a branding statement or a value proposition is just a different term for introducing ourselves in a memorable way. And so what you want to think about is what's most important is not what the thing is labeled, but what you are making in terms of the kind of first impression with that person. And so basically the elevator speech, it's the idea of being able to introduce yourself in a relatively short amount of time. You're going from one floor to the next, and at that time, you're making a self-introduction. Shorter is better, which means you want it less than 30 seconds. you can always go more in depth, but you're trying to make that quick pitch of who you are. And the purpose is to answer the so what about you and what you do. It's more than a job title, more than responsibility of what you do or your business. It gives the listener a quick understanding of what you bring to the party. So wouldn't it be better to say something about that has depth and interest? So, one of the things people ask me what I do, and I say, I help retiring educators build and implement new life plans. Boom, done, right? I am ready for the deeper conversation, but it gives me a quick introduction of what I do. And so be ready for that, because you never know when those opportunities come. And I'll be very honest, I had the opportunity one time, I got to meet someone, didn't know him yet, but he was the keynote speaker at a conference. I was on the committee. He was walking out because he had to get somewhere else. The person in charge introduced me. I gave him a quick, here's what I do. And then a couple months later, I got an email from NASA. And then eventually it was this person I met for a few minutes. He was putting together a connection of career people to go to NASA to do some talks and to learn about NASA and how we can help. And in the end, I got to see the space shuttle launch, all off a quick elevator speech. So you never know what opportunities may come from doing that. There are definitely challenges ahead. It's not an easy process. For introverts, you're definitely worried and thinking, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But it can be done. Trust me, I know you can do it. And the more you have a purpose and a structure, the easier it is to get everything together. Engagement is the biggest obstacle. So, here are some of the things, right? And I struggle with this too. When do you approach someone? When you don't know anybody. How do you start a conversation? How do you keep a conversation going and avoid those awkward moments where you're both looking at each other and then you're hoping somebody makes the first step out? How do you end the conversation, right? How do you remember people you meet? Follow up? How do you use the elevator speech? All those things are important. So let's go a little bit more in depth about them and share some of these as we go through. Okay? So how do you approach when you don't know someone? Well, understand you want to get comfortable. Know the turf, right? So this is professional networking, and you know what it is. Or if it's a neighborhood party, you know what it is. Search out those solo people standing by themselves, right? Go up, talk to them, say hi. They're probably in the same situation you are. Look around, do you know anybody? Great. If no one, go over and say hi, then I'll need you to introduction. The other part is, like there was a speaker in the room, somebody that kind of talked about, they did like a quick keynote. Go over and introduce yourself. Oh, I love your talk. I'd love to know more about this. Or if you know the organizers, go over and talk to them. That'll lead to getting the ball going. How to start a conversation with someone you don't know. Just smile and introduce yourself by name. Make eye contact. Extend your hand. Usually the other person will do the same thing. Repeat back their name to both to ensure that you understand it correctly. So it's, hey, how you doing? I'm Mark. And they say, oh, we go, Michael, it's great to meet you. It's a great way. Or if you didn't catch your name, say, hey, I didn't catch your name. Body language kind of will help you. If you're open, meaning that you're not arms crossed, legs, crossed, behind your back. If you're just standing there, it's going to be, or sitting there with them open, it's a good, comfortable way to kind of show that you're ready to meet people as you go through. And script a few things, to say. You're going to have, look at maybe current events. Avoid the yes, no. And ask follow-up questions that provoke conversations. Not like, oh, so do you like so-and-so? Or do you like this? It's like, yes, no. Hey, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Wow, that's very interesting. I've never heard that. Can you explain a little bit more? Get that so it becomes more open-ended questions, not closed-ended. And how to keep the conversation going, right? Your goal is to get to know the other person. Keep in mind that relationships are about support and information exchange. One of the best things we do for each other is to provide great resources. As you listen to what they have to say about themselves, think about who you know that might be a good resource for them. You might offer them to share something them following within. So that's an important part. So, make sure you have a place to take notes. I try to take notes on the back of the cards and then review the cards afterwards. And, if silence occurred, act interested in the person and make a comment on their dress or something about them. It leads to more conversation. So how do you end conversations? Right? Sometimes you get in there and it's like this whole piece and, and there's typically like an arc that, this build up in the conversation, and it starts winding down. And the arc is at the point where the conversation has somewhat come to an end. But because the energy and flow of the topic has come to the end, you need to finish it. So, I really enjoyed speaking to you. I've enjoyed learning so much about such and such today. I'd love to connect with you, again, offline, so let me have your card, or I'll follow up with you after the event. Those type of things as it goes through. So how do you remember people that you meet, right? Because there's a lot going on. When you go into a meeting, have meaningful conversations with just 3 new people. Chances you're going to meet more, but for introverts and socially reluctant, 3 is a manageable number. It takes the overwhelm out of the process. You want to collect a business card, contact information. Even if you're at a cocktail party, collect a business card is always appropriate. The easy way to collect information about the person, to me, is to write it down. And write it down on their business card. And that way, you have the information, the contact, and what you have going forward. So how do you follow up? Follow-up is vital for keeping the energy for developing a relationship. Have you ever noticed that if you've waited a month or 2 after the connection, the energy and interest is probably depleted in both of you in terms of connecting and working out some type of relationship? It's not that it can't. It's just when you follow up quickly, there's still good energy for both of you, and that you can continue the conversation and build that relationship. By phone, by email. When I do a presentation, I already have kind of a framework set up so that I will have a connection within 2 days of that meeting, because I want to make it as soon as possible, because I'll put in my contacts and I'll send it out. So it's important to make sure you do that. Make sure you engage with social media. You have a LinkedIn profile that you update regularly. You're sharing information, connecting the conversation, different things that can help build that relationship and make sure that you're following through and meeting new people. And maintenance. Easy part for introverts, but it's really, think of the activities that you did today with people you already know. You're doing regular maintenance, whether you believe it or not. Right? But it has to be deliberate. It has to be conscious. It has to be a skill and a habit. So your time has 2 parts. Investment in meeting people, but then that ongoing time in nurturing the relationship. That's where my network and ID, that list comes into play. Because I know, I realize I haven't done anything in 3 days. I need to get on it. I need to talk to people. And I don't do I missed 5 days, so I'm going to talk to 10 people. I just pick up where I left off so that it doesn't become overwhelming. And then accountability. Only 20 to 30% of all people who attempt to make a change can maintain that change. That's some kind of accountability structure in place. So that's important, right? 70 to 80% are going to fail to fully maintain a change. So it's imperative, right? That last step of maintenance phase is where we tend to fail. This is where if you want to succeed with a change, you must plan for potential collapse of your momentum. It's a known statistic that 20% to 30% will fail. So another way to think is 70 to 80% of us will fail to fully maintain a charge. Of course, we tend to think of failure will be someone else. The best example is where we shows up this hard page. Even when they are counseled by their doctors to change their lifestyle or face certain death, most don't make certain changes. if this kind of incentive doesn't work for a heart patient, think about it. They have that life or death issue. It's going to be a lot harder for us just to maintain our networks. So if you have a great history of being successful and making other meaningful changes in your life, great. Don't skip on part 5 in this case. To further your case, it's imperative with your new networking skills. You stick to them and you use them as you come along. It's very important to put it all together. Right? Failure, success is up to you. Right? No matter what we do, how we are, what we're going to put together, it's always up to you. It's your consistency, it's your action, it's your engagement. It's time to make it happen. You need to put it together. You need to be out there. You need to build it into your calendar. Huge as you go through. And if you think about things, all right, I can be your first new contact. If you haven't put me on there on LinkedIn, reach out, connect me, tell me you heard through the networking webinar. I'd love to connect with you, share my contacts and who I am, and put things together. And it's so important to step forward. If you have a purpose, if you have an opportunity. I know for me as an introvert, it's nervous. It's like scary going out there, but I know you can do it. Reach out, make a step, because with that step, I know that you can build your network, you can maintain your network, and that you're going to find opportunities you never thought were possible. Just want to thank you. Here are my 2 businesses that, if you want to just check them out. If you ever have any questions, ways to connect with me, and I look forward to talking to you soon, and good luck in your networking adventures.
Hi, my name is Mark Gaynor. I really want to honor you for your commitment to learning more about pre-retirement issues. When we're in our 20s, we really didn't think about retirement. If we were smart, that we started putting some money away, or if we're in our 30s, we started kind of thinking about all those other pieces of, how do I put together a 401k, a 403b, how do I have my financial pieces put together? But we never really think about all the other issues. And so our main focus throughout what we do is really focused on looking at that nest egg. Do we have that financial security and freedom that we're hoping for when we retire? So what I'd ask you to do is on the USB that you got is to go into the presentation folder, and there's a file called Retirement Flyer. Print that out. So I'll take a moment to kind of wait here. You can pause the recording. Print that out, and you'll see one side has some general information, but if you do it back to back, on the other side, I'll have some key areas that you can definitely take notes on as we go through this brief presentation looking at pre-retirement areas and issues. So there are 6 stages to retirement. And so I think it's important that we're just going to focus on the pre-retirement area. That's the working years. Those are the things that you are starting to think about and put together, and you're at that point of some point you want to escape work and do something else. So when we think about pre-retirement, there's 2 sub-stages. The first one is that it's kind of the negative view of retirement. We never think about it as way off in the future. It's not going to be anything I'm going to think about right now. But it doesn't stay like that. At some point, you're going to start to think about, what am I going to do when I retire? And so that second stage is really this planning. What do I want to do? You've kind of put the financial piece always there, but you haven't thought about all those things like what I want to do with my time. Is there a bucket list? What can I do now to get ready? And so that's an important part. It doesn't matter if you're 1 year out or 6 months out, or you're 5 or 10 or 15. There is planning that we can do to help things go so it's a lot smoother instead of hitting some of those bumps as you go into retirement. So the big thing is, what do you want to do when you retire? If you were to retire tomorrow, what would it be? Would it be volunteering? Would you get involved more in your church? Would you get into education? What would you do along those lines? Not everybody's just going to retire and then just be off and hanging out. But how do you want to do that? Do you want part-time work? Do you want to do consulting? How do you want to put things together? as you move forward from that point. So as we move forward, for those that didn't do any planning, sometimes life can look like this. You get up every day, you may jump on the iPad, check out the TV, but all of a sudden you realize it's like 11, 12, you're like, where'd the morning go? What did I do? And that could be over and over each day. And one of the things that we're going to find is that work laid out a great way to kind of have time management in what we do. And without that, we have to kind of do some planning. But with just a little planning,